There is a moment when someone starts loving you that can be almost impossible to recognize, because it rarely looks like love at first. It looks like confusion. They become more aware of you, but somehow more careful around you. They notice things they used to overlook. They remember details you assumed they had forgotten. They seem to know when something is wrong before you say anything, yet when the moment becomes emotionally serious, you begin wondering whether you imagined the connection, because their behavior keeps contradicting itself. They move closer, then become guarded. They show concern, then hide it behind indifference. They seem affected by you, but refuse to explain why. And eventually you start asking the question that keeps people awake at night: if they really care about me, why do they act like they don't? The answer is uncomfortable, because love does not simply make someone want you. It makes you emotionally important to them, and emotional importance creates vulnerability. Before you mattered, your approval meant very little. Your mood belonged to you. Your attention belonged to you. If you walked into a room, they could notice you without their internal state changing. But once attachment begins, something shifts. Your presence starts carrying emotional weight. A small change in your behavior can affect them more than it logically should. Your silence can feel louder. Your approval can feel unusually satisfying. Your disappointment can stay in their mind long after the moment has passed. They may not call this love. They may not even understand it themselves. But their emotional system has already started treating you differently from everyone else. That is why one of the first things you may notice is that they start paying attention to details they have no practical reason to remember. They remember something you said weeks ago. They notice when your energy changes. They recognize the expression you make when they know which subjects make you uncomfortable and which things make you laugh. It can feel strangely intimate because you never asked them to pay attention that closely. But people naturally store information connected to what matters emotionally. When someone becomes important, your ordinary details stop being ordinary to them. The things you casually forget can become part of their mental picture of you. They may never announce that they remember. Sometimes they reveal it accidentally, by bringing up something you mentioned long ago and realizing from your reaction that you are surprised they remembered. Then something even stranger can happen. They start caring about your opinion of them. Not everyone's opinion. Yours. They may become slightly more careful about how they behave around you, more aware of whether you approve, more sensitive to whether you seem impressed or disappointed. Someone who feels nothing can be careless around you because there is nothing emotionally at stake. But someone who has become attached starts experiencing your judgment differently. They want to be seen a certain way by you. They may pretend they do not care, but their behavior becomes more controlled when you are watching. They become more conscious of their appearance, their choices, their words, even the way they respond to your reactions. The strange part is that they may not consciously decide to do any of this. Their attention simply becomes organized around the person whose opinion has started to matter. This is also why love can make someone unusually observant when other people enter the picture. You may notice that they become quieter when someone else gets your attention. They may not openly show jealousy, because admitting jealousy would reveal something they are trying to hide. Instead, their energy changes. They watch more closely. They become less relaxed. They may suddenly act detached, as though they could not care less what happens. But indifference requires no effort when you genuinely feel nothing. The need to perform indifference usually appears when there is something underneath it that feels dangerous to reveal. They are not necessarily thinking, "I am afraid of losing this person." They may simply feel unsettled, irritated, or strangely uncomfortable without understanding where the reaction came from. And this is where people often misunderstand attachment. They assume that if someone loves them, that person should naturally move closer. But emotional attachment can produce the opposite reaction when vulnerability becomes frightening. Someone can want closeness and fear what closeness gives you, access to them. Once you know they care, you gain the ability to hurt them. You can disappoint them. You can reject them. You can make them feel replaceable. For someone who values emotional control, that realization can be terrifying. So they begin protecting themselves from the very connection they secretly want. They become warmer when they feel safe and colder when they realize how much they have revealed. They may open up, then immediately regret showing so much. They may create distance after a particularly intimate moment because distance makes them feel in control again. That contradiction is one of the clearest things about emotionally significant relationships. The closer they feel to you internally, the more carefully they may manage how close they appear externally. They can joke when they are nervous. They can tease when a compliment would feel too vulnerable. They can change the subject when the conversation gets too personal. They can act completely normal immediately after a moment that clearly meant something to them. From your perspective, this feels confusing because you are looking at their behavior as one continuous story. They are experiencing two stories at once, what they feel and what they are willing to let you see. You may also notice them creating small opportunities to remain connected to you. They find reasons to spend more time around you. They extend conversations that could have ended naturally. They become interested in things connected to your world even when those things previously meant nothing to them. None of these moments proves anything by itself. What matters is repetition. When someone becomes attached, their attention repeatedly returns to the same person. They do not have to force themselves to think about you. Their mind simply keeps finding its way back. You become part of their emotional landscape, which means ordinary situations begin reminding them of you without their permission. Eventually, they may start testing the connection without realizing that is what they are doing. Instead of asking directly whether they matter to you, they watch what happens when they become less available. Instead of asking whether you would miss them, they create a little distance and observe whether you notice. Instead of admitting that your attention matters, they become quieter and see whether you come looking for them. These behaviors can look manipulative, but sometimes they are simply expressions of uncertainty. People often test what they are too afraid to ask. They want evidence without having to risk hearing an answer that could hurt them. This is why someone who loves you can sometimes behave in ways that make you question whether they ever cared. They may withdraw exactly when you expected closeness. They may become unusually calm when you expected emotion. They may act as though losing you would be easy, even while privately becoming increasingly affected by the possibility. The performance of indifference can become a shield. If they convince you that they do not need you, then they do not have to face how much they actually want you. If they never admit how important you are, then they can pretend they are still emotionally independent. But emotional attachment has a way of exposing itself through reactions. Watch what happens when you become distant. Watch what happens when you stop seeking their approval. Watch what happens when someone else makes you feel valued. Watch how quickly their attention changes when they sense that their place in your world is no longer guaranteed. A person who feels nothing can accept your distance without much internal disturbance. A person who is attached may experience your distance as a sudden loss of emotional security. They might not chase you dramatically. They might not confess anything. Sometimes they simply become more present again, more attentive, more interested, because the possibility of losing access to you reminds them of what they had started taking for granted. That is the difference between attraction and attachment. Attraction wants access to you. Attachment fears losing you. Attraction enjoys your presence. Attachment notices your absence. Attraction can exist comfortably from a distance. Attachment begins reorganizing someone's emotional world around the possibility that you may no longer be there. And once that happens, you start seeing behaviors that seem disproportionate to the relationship itself. They care more about your mood. They become more protective. They become irritated by things that previously would not have mattered. They want to know what is happening in your life. They remember your patterns. They react when you pull away. their emotional neutrality disappears. Sometimes they even become more critical of you, and this can be one of the most confusing changes. It does not necessarily mean they care less. Emotional closeness makes your behavior more personally relevant to them. A stranger can make a mistake and you forget about it 5 minutes later. Someone you love can make the same mistake and suddenly it matters. Their flaws become more visible because they are no longer observing them from a safe distance. Their choices affect you because you are emotionally invested. The person has moved from being an interesting possibility to being someone whose behavior can actually disturb your internal peace. That is also why love can expose sides of people they normally keep hidden. Someone who always considered themselves independent may suddenly need reassurance. Someone who never cared about approval may become sensitive to yours. Someone who thought jealousy was beneath them may experience it. Someone who rarely overthinks may suddenly analyze the smallest change in your behavior. Love does not always make people more rational. Sometimes it reveals exactly where they are least rational because emotional attachment removes the comfortable distance they usually have from other people. And eventually, there is a moment when the person realizes that you have become difficult to replace, not because there are no other people in the world, but because emotional attachment does not work through comparison. It works through association. Your presence becomes connected to certain feelings. Your voice becomes familiar. Your expressions become recognizable. Your absence creates a space where you used to be. Places, routines, memories, even ordinary moments can begin carrying traces of you. They are no longer simply remembering a person. They are carrying an emotional environment that contains that person. That is why the strongest evidence of love is rarely a dramatic confession. It is the disappearance of emotional neutrality. You become someone whose presence changes them, whose opinion matters, whose distance is noticed, whose happiness affects them, whose rejection would hurt, and whose absence creates a feeling they cannot easily replace. They may still pretend otherwise because admitting the truth would mean admitting that you have gained access to something they usually protect, their emotional stability. So when someone starts acting strangely around you, do not only listen to what they say. Look at what repeatedly changes. Look at the attention they give without realizing it. Look at the details they remember. Look at the reactions they cannot completely hide. Look at what happens when you stop giving them the reassurance they had quietly grown dependent on. Because people can control their words. They can control their expressions. They can even convince themselves that they are unaffected. But emotional importance has a habit of leaking through behavior. And perhaps that is the most unsettling part of loving someone. You can become deeply important to a person who is still trying to act unaffected by you. You can occupy their thoughts without knowing how often they think about you. You can become the person whose approval they secretly crave while pretending they need nobody's approval. You can become the absence they feel before they are willing to admit that they miss you. Sometimes they are not hiding the fact that they care because they want to deceive you. Sometimes they are hiding it because admitting it would make the feeling real. And once it becomes real, they cannot go back to being emotionally neutral. That is why the person who loves you may not always look like someone who loves you. Sometimes they look distant because they are overwhelmed by closeness. Sometimes they look indifferent because they are protecting themselves from rejection. Sometimes they look irritated because caring has made them sensitive. Sometimes they pull away because they suddenly realize how much power your presence has over them. But beneath all of those contradictions is the same transformation. You stopped being just another person, and became someone whose presence can change the way they feel inside. The haunting part is that they may never tell you when that transformation happened. There may be no single moment. No dramatic confession. No obvious announcement. Just a slow accumulation of tiny changes until one day you realize they have been behaving differently around you for a very long time. And maybe they have been trying to hide it from you. Maybe they have been trying to hide it from themselves. But love has one weakness that even the most controlled person cannot completely eliminate. When someone becomes emotionally important, they stop being able to treat that person like everyone else. Eventually, something gives them away. Not their words. Their behavior.